Hello viewers, the Nigerian Biafran War did a lot of damages on the Igbo side. It resulted to Igbo name changing during the war. And that is why today Bini people claim some part of Igbo land as theirs, which is not actually true. I would like you to watch this video and we'll be right back.
They have been across Igbo land recording these things, and yes.
There is uniformity in what we do.
I was surprised how much of the Igbo influence I could witness here. So I'm agreeing with you.
99%. It's just that we are Camelon. When we want to be Benin, we be Benin.
Okay.
When we want to be Igbo, we can be Igbo total to 99%.
Okay.
Yes. So there's none of their custom that is frightening to us, and none is strange.
Yes. Okay. So, what about the Benin side? What other cultural traits? The Benin side, you know, what other cultural traits do you think link you with them? Look, your language is distinctly Igbo.
Yes, because we are not in a border town, my dear. God will have. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. Yes, what was that question?
No, I was saying that your language is distinctly Igbo. Distinctly Igbo.
Because we are nearer the Igbo than the Benin. Yes. Abo is Delta State. Yeah. So you can see that this village is a border town.
Certainly.
So that influence is 99.99% on us. So, yes, I think that what matters is the source of origin. That is why we are affiliated. We are more of the Igbo language or their culture, their tradition. We are more of that.
You are more of the Igbo.
We are Benin names.
Okay. You also use Benin names?
I am a Benin, like I told you.
Yes. Yeah. And Ogbemudia is your townsman. Good. But that's distinctly Igbo. Ogbemudia.
No. What does Ogbemudia mean in your place?
What does it mean in Benin? Ogbemudia, my own. That's my heritage, Ogbe. That is my community.
Mudia,
you get it? Mudia is there. That is my source.
Mudia means come here.
Means come here.
In Igbo language. I mean in Do language.
Ogbe Mudia, that is I belong here. I belong here. My inheritance is here.
I take refuge by the elder. Maybe somebody is pursuing you, something is pursuing you.
But your cousin, you're a cousin of Austin Afam, right? Yes. You're a cousin. So how come he is Afam?
Augustine Afam is not a cousin.
Okay.
Augustine Afam is my brother.
It's your brother?
The same father.
You mean it?
Yes. So my father's name is Efan. The father of my father is Igbenedion.
Okay.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
My father's name is Efan, which will change to Afam.
Yes.
Okay. Then my father's name is Igbenedion, which we are bearing. But the name he is bearing has to do with the Civil War.
Okay.
Because they were marginalizing the Igbos that time.
Okay.
So we had to change from Afam to Igbenedion to save our heads.
For safety reasons.
Yeah, to save our heads. Well, same father. That's our father's house. That's our father's compound. Okay. He's my immediate senior in the family. He's from a different mother, but the same father.
The same father. Yes. That's interesting.
So it's not a cousin.
So it's a survival mechanism. A lot of this identifying with Benin
and same man bearing two different.
Bearing different, but as a survival strategy. But it is Afam Efune. Yes. That is clearly Igbo. Good. That is clearly Igbo. But for political reasons, for survival strategy, for safety.
The fear of one's life that is supposed to call and kill another.
So how much of that are you still experiencing? This need to embrace the Benin side for safety. How much of it are you still experiencing in this 21st century?
Like I said, that was during the Civil War.
Yes.
That was when we had to change our name. I think that for now it's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, there was no point telling them to change back.
To change back.
So we that were bearing our grandfather's name retained it.
Okay.
Yeah, in the real sense of it, they are the actual children of my father.
Yes.
Because they are the one bearing my father's name.
Yes.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
I now told you that he's not a cousin.
Okay. Yes. I actually thought it was your cousin.
That is exactly what it is.
What other aspects of your culture and daily life did you have to change in order to survive during the Civil War and after?
Nothing. Because if we talk of mode of dressing, it's almost the same thing.
You are still embracing the Igbo mode of dressing and things. It was mostly
because they were dealing with names.
What about?
Our topic today is Igbo name changing during the Biafran War. The Biafran War, also known as Nigerian Biafran War, which raged from 1967 to 1970, remains one of the most consequential chapters in Nigerian history. It was a brutal and devastating conflict marked by profound human suffering, dislocation, and loss of life, particularly among the Igbo ethnic group. The war arose out of political, ethnic, and economic tensions, leading to the secession of the southeastern region of Nigeria, which declared itself, not just southeastern, the eastern region of Nigeria, which declared itself the Republic of Biafra under Colonel Odumegwu Ojukwu. The war resulted in significant casualties and widespread devastation, with estimates suggesting that between 1 and 3 million people, most of them civilians, women and children, lost their lives, many from starvation. One of the lesser discussed but deeply impactful aspects of this period was the Igbo people's response to the violence and trauma they endured. In the midst of the war and its aftermath, many Igbo individuals resorted to a strategic and life-saving practice, changing their names. This practice was not just about personal or family choice. It was often a matter of survival, protection, and the search for opportunities in the hostile post-war environment. Reasons for name changing. 1. Survival. The primary reason for name changing during and after the Biafran War was survival. As Biafra fought for independence, the Igbo people found themselves increasingly targeted by Nigerian forces and other ethnic groups who associated them with the rebellion. This association meant that many Igbo were subject to violence, forced relocation, or even death. To avoid being identified as Biafrans and marked for persecution, many Igbo individuals adopted non-Igbo names that would allow them to blend in other ethnic communities. This name-changing practice was one of the few ways to escape the constant threat of violence and ensure one's safety during a time when ethnic divisions were sharply drawn and hostility was at all-time high. And that is why you saw the Benin guy from Afamefule. The name was lost to Ibinedon. There are things like that. As in the case of the man you saw in the video, from Afamefule to Ibinedon, and some of them retained it. And when he was asked, but there is a brother you have, that is Afam, or a relative you have. There's a relative you have called Afam. He said it's not just a relative, it's a brother, same parents. Just that that one retained the name, he did not retain his own name. He stuck to the new name they switched to. And there are many like that. And today, the people will think, oh, these are from Benin, or these are from, depending on the name they switched to. Now, the second reason for name changing, protection. Name changing also provided a measure of protection. In a war-torn country, the chances of being attacked, displaced, or exploited were greatly reduced if one's name did not signal a direct link to the Igbo ethnicity. Adopting names from other ethnic groups such as Yoruba, Hausa, Edo, Igala, TV, or what do you call them, or even foreign names became a way to shield oneself from the targeting that many Igbo faced during and immediately after the war. These new names helped individuals evade harassment, forced conscriptions, and exploitation at the hand of various groups who held a particular animosity towards those seen as Biafrans. Another reason for name changing, the number 3, access to education and opportunities. The post-war period was marked by scramble for scarce resources, including education, employment, and political opportunities. Many Igbos who had been stigmatized during the war found it difficult to gain access to education or employment due to their ethnic identity. Changing one's name to something perceived as neutral or non-Igbo allowed individuals to circumvent these barriers. By adopting names that did not immediately link them to the Igbo ethnicity, many could access the opportunities that had been denied to those with overtly Igbo names, a practice that continued long after the war ended. This strategy often became crucial for the future prospects of individuals and their families. Now let me give you examples and testimonies. 1. Stella Damascus. One of the more well-known examples of name changing during the Biafran War is that of Nigerian actress Stella Damascus. Born Stella Damascus, her family changed their name from Ojukwu, the same surname as the Biafran leader, Colonel Odumegwu Ojukwu, to Damascus. During the war, this change was a direct response to the war's divisive nature, as having a surname associated with Biafra could have been dangerous. In a post-war Nigeria, by adopting a new, less politically charged name, her family sought to protect themselves from any lingering animosity towards Biafrans.
It was interesting that so many people didn't even understand that your surname was not what it was. I mean, I've always known it was Damasus. But so many people who I even thought knew, were shocked at the revelation. Were you as shocked as a lot of people were?
I was shocked, I won't lie, because over the years, I'd corrected this, I'd said it in so many other interviews, so I thought people had caught on by then, but I was so shocked. Like, they drew my attention to it, and I'm like, what? People still think I had to address it, but I could understand why a lot of people would just stay true to that name, because that's what they got used to, and they just didn't bother to change it, So, but it was fun. I saw comments that really blew my mind, and I laughed a lot.
But the one question I think I saw a lot, which you know how to explain to us, is what is Damasus?
So Damasus is my grandfather's first name. It's a Greek name. My original surname was Ojukwu, but that changed during the war, during the Biafran War, where my people were attacked in Asaba because they thought that it was the same Ojukwu as Odumegwu and all of that. So they changed it even before I was born. So I was born into Damasus. And when I asked why, that was the reason they gave me. So I can't do anything about it now.
Well, no, that makes sense.
Wow. We are still on examples and testimonies. Number 2, personal anecdotes. I've also had many personal stories from my family, including one poignant example involving my aunties. After the war, many of them changed their names to secure a place in schools and universities. During the immediate aftermath of the war, those with overtly Igbo names were often excluded from educational institutions and job opportunities. Changing their names to something more acceptable or neutral allowed them to integrate with a society that had little room for those associated with Biafra. This practice, although initially seen as a survival mechanism, became ingrained in their identities for many years. And some of them even retained their new names long after the war ended. Consequences and legacy. The consequences of all of this name changing. One, identity complexity. Some say identity crisis. The legacy of name changing has contributed to the complex landscape of identity in Nigeria. In many border communities where Igbo people had long been integrated with other ethnic groups, the process of name changing created a situation where distinguishing between original ethnic identities became challenging. Individuals who had adopted non-Igbo names were sometimes perceived as part of the communities they had integrated into, even if they had no ethnic ties to those groups. As a result, the fluidity of identity became even more pronounced, particularly in urban centers where mixed ethnicities were common. We are looking at the consequences. Number two, cultural erasure. Erasure, cultural erasure. The widespread adoption of the non-Igbo names also led to a degree of cultural erasure. Names are not just identifiers. They are carriers of culture, history, and heritage. The adoption of foreign or neutral names meant that many Igbo people, particularly those who had lived through the war, lost a direct connection to their heritage. For many, this was a temporary strategy for survival, but the long-term impact was the gradual erosion of some aspects of Igbo cultural identity. The very act of renaming oneself was a rejection of one's immediate ethnic community in favor of survival. And for some, this led to a generation of Igbo individuals whose names no longer carried the weight of their ancestral history. Number three on these consequences. The practice of name changing during the Biafran War and its aftermath holds significant historical importance. It is a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the Igbo people during one of the darkest chapters in Nigerian history. By understanding the motivations and consequences of name changing, we gain a deeper appreciation for the lived experiences of those who suffered through the war. It also highlights the intersection of identity survival and politics during periods of conflict. Claims of ownership and identity. This led to claims of ownership and identity. And that is why today, Bini, that claims father of all nations, are claiming some part of Igbo people as being their ancestors. So claims of ownership and identity. One, Benin claims. A particularly interesting aspect of the name-changing practice is the claim made by some Benin communities that individuals who adopted non-Igbo names during the war are, in fact, part of their own ethnic group. This reflects the complexities of ownership and identity in Nigeria, where ethnic boundaries are often fluid, especially in areas of cultural and political exchange. These claims illustrate the way in which the war and subsequent name changing blurred ethnic lines and led to new interpretations of cultural belongings. So sad. Two, Igbo identity. The retention of adopted names by some Igbo individuals after the war also raises questions about the preservation of Igbo identity. Many of those who changed their names continue to identify as Igbo, even though their new names reflected a detachment from their cultural roots. You saw that in that video. He still speaks Igbo. almost 100%. But he's answering Ibinedon. This raises an important question about what it truly means to belong to an ethnic group and how much of one's identity is tied to the name one carries. In post-war Nigeria, where ethnic tensions remain high, the act of retaining a non-Igbo name could signify both an attempt to erase the painful past and a pragmatic choice to adapt to a changing world. In conclusion, the Biafran War left a deep scar on the Nigerian landscape, particularly for the Igbo people. The practice of name changing during and after the war was not merely a reaction to the immediate dangers of ethnic violence. It was also a reflection of the ways in which identity, survival, and opportunity intersect during times of profound social and political upheaval. The consequences of these practices, from the complexities of identity to the challenges of cultural preservation, continue to shape Igbo communities today. Understanding the historical context of name changing during the Biafran War is essential for appreciating the full scope of the Igbo experience and the long-term impact of the war on Nigerian society. By examining these issues, we gain insight into the enduring struggle of a people to preserve their identity, history, and culture amidst the most difficult of circumstances.